So, thank you, Päivi Räsänen, for coming. I know we have been discussing this for a long time, and finally we get to meet, and hopefully we can do something in the summer again, either in Helsinki or Mariehamn. But
Yes.
we will see about that later on. But I'm really excited to have you here. And for you who don't know, shortly about Päivi Räsänen, she's a doctor. She has worked as Minister of Interior. She's currently a politician in the Finnish Christian Democrats. And you would maybe assume that those things were enough, but no, she's also doing great at the most important job in the world, which is being a mother. And of course, she has not only one, but 5 children. So welcome, Päivi Räsänen, and I'm really glad to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I gotta say, I have been reading quite a lot about you, and you are a hardworking woman. You are resilient and courageous, but you have been through quite a lot lately. You were found guilty of hate speech, and it all started with a Twitter post in 2019. Could you tell me a little bit more about how it started?
Yes, this has been a very, very surprising and peculiar case. I could never have believed that something like that could happen in my lifetime and in Finland. Uh, Almost 7 years ago, in June 2019, there was a debate in Finland because the Finnish Evangelical Lutheran Church and its leadership in public decided to promote the Pride event. And it was a shock to many people, many Christians, and also to me. And I was especially, I was worried that if the people, if they lose their trust on Bible, then it is not only about question about gender or marriage, but also about their salvation to eternal life. And I felt that what the church leadership did, it was in contradiction with what the Bible teaches. And that's why I took a photo from the book of Romans, from its first chapter, where Apostle Paul teaches about these issues, and made a social media update. And after that, some citizen made a criminal complaint about this my posting. One lady who made that. And then when it came to public that police has started to investigate my post in Facebook and in Twitter, then there became more and more criminal complaints about my writings and about my interviews. And for example, I had written a booklet.
The pamphlet.
Yes,
Yeah.
church pamphlet, 2004. It was published about male and female. He created them. And
Because you won the two court cases for the Twitter post,
yeah,
right? And then there was a third court case, and that
yes.
was regarding the pamphlet alone. So basically, you won the first two for the
Yes,
Twitter
but
post, but
in fact, I won 3 cases. There was still one radio debate case with Ruben Stiller, and I won them in Helsinki District Court and in Court of Appeal. But the prosecutor appealed to Supreme Court both from this case and for the Twitter. So they both were in Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court gave acquittal to my Twitter post. And they convicted me and Bishop Juhana Pohjola, who is in charge of publishing this booklet, and we were ordered to censor this booklet, take away some sentences from there.
okay. And what were the sentences you had to take away, if I may ask?
Yes, they are mainly about some kind of medical viewpoints. And I would say that the main point was that the Supreme Court said that the main point of the conviction was that they claimed that I regard homosexuals not equal to heterosexual, that I regard them inferior because I say that homosexuality is a deviation from the normal sexuality. The Supreme Court said that I should have said that it is the normal variation of sexuality, not deviation. And even though that in this booklet I say it many times, 3 times, that all people are equal, nobody is
Yes.
inferior to one another. So we are all created as the image of God, and we are all equal. But because my conviction was that I my conviction was about agitation against minorities, and in our law it is explained that if you keep some people inferior to other people, then you break against this law. And that's why they tried to show that when I speak about sexual deviation, then it means that I I think that those people are inferior, even though that the Christian view is that we all are created as equal, but
Exactly.
it is the God who says what is sin and what is not sin, and He originally created man and woman, uh,
Yeah.
and the marriage between.
Exactly. Yeah. And it feels like we are in a time where speaking the truth is not acceptable, depending, of course, on what is the truth. But if we go back to the Twitter post, what values did your church break by joining the Pride Parade?
Um, so, what values did I break?
No, what values did the church break
Ah,
by joining the
okay.
Pride Parade?
Yes, yes. Because in the Bible it is very clearly said that the same-sex relationships, they are against God's intention in creation, and that they are sinful in front of Him. It is said in the book of Romans in its first chapter, and
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 why do you think the church still chose to join, despite this? Did they know that it would break the values of true Christianity?
of course, sure, of course they know, if of course they
Mm,
know, but they they want to be progressive. They want to be
inclusive.
yes, inclusive in this society, and they want to be modern, and of course there are theologians who explain that this is not a word of God. It is word that shows towards the God, or so on. So there are also different views about the Bible, and they they ignore these words that are,
Yeah,
for example,
yeah.
in the book of Romans.
It's quite interesting. Like it's kind of called the party of inclusion nowadays, and they are not as inclusive once you have another opinion than them. And it's also quite funny, I think, because you can say things like there are only two genders, just straight up biological facts, or that men should not be in women's locker room for women's safety, or men should not compete in women's sports for fairness, and they suddenly cancel you. If they were really so inclusive, then other opinions should not matter that much. They should be open to other opinions. But what I have realized is that it's not only that they don't include you anymore if you, for example, speak something like the truth that they don't like. They work very actively to exclude you from everything. And it's crazy. I went through this myself, and I was like, you should include me. Like, why are you not including me? You are the one, bragging about your inclusiveness. Then you suddenly don't include me anymore just because I stated biological facts. It doesn't make any sense. I didn't hurt anybody. I never had bad intentions when speaking these things, and still they come at me like I did something really bad. But it's like this kind of mask of inclusiveness. You put it on, and it's being used by everyone to look good, but when it comes down to it, it's just that. It's all about looking good and not as much about doing good. Being inclusive basically means, in most cases in today's age, per my opinion, that you put on a mask and act good without actually doing the work to do any good. You know what I mean? If it makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. Yeah, and you are right. And I'm sad that you have had also these kind of experiences, because I think that the ideology, the main progressive ideology that we have, for example, in our mainstream media, in leadership of the Finnish Evangelical Lutheran Church, and also in our government, in I mean in yes,
Mm.
there is some kind of totalitarian aim. So they want to silence the other voice, and it is if we think about freedom of speech and freedom of expression, we do not need these freedoms when everyone agree with each other. But when we disagree, when we have different opinions that might feel sometimes insulting, then that is just the moment when we need these freedoms, and they are important for anyone, for everyone. And
That is so well said.
yeah,
That is so well
yeah.
said, actually. And I was speaking with I went out with some opinions of abortions, for example, and I had this discussion with one person on Facebook, and basically he had rated my restaurant 1 out of 5, and wrote something like, this owner of this restaurant is anti-abortion and anti-EU, and all these things he wrote. And then I made a post and I said, like, how is this fair? Like, my service and food at the restaurant hasn't changed. The only thing that changed was that I went public with my own personal views or political views. And for example, abortion was one. And then I asked him, like, would you think it's okay if your friend in your friend group said was pro-life, for example, was against abortions, and would you freeze that person out of the group? And he responded, yes, I would freeze him out and do everything in my power to make sure he doesn't, belong in the group anymore. And I'm like, this is, how every company or every person is treated when they speak, the truth, or when they want to talk about things that are a little bit, controversial, so to speak. Even if you do it, and like you did it peacefully and with respect and but speaking of this, do you think is pride being used as a political tool?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, sure, it is used, and it is some kind of it is some kind of you have to accept pride, and you have to uh, keep a rainbow flag visible if you want to be in, included.
Included.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is. We can see it from business life and from and I know, for example, many students who say that it is very difficult for them because they have to be silent about their views, that they are not excluded from these
Exactly.
fellowships. And so it is. I would say that it is some kind of totalitarianism,
Yeah.
totalitarian ideology that we have nowadays. And if you think about abortion, it is. I think it is still more shocking that this kind of thing happens, because everyone who 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 knows what happens in abortion should be open to think about these issues and to discuss, even to discuss about these issues,
Exactly.
because it is a biological fact that
Yeah.
that that they end a human life in abortion.
Exactly. And it's a life that will never come back.
Yeah.
Like they think like, well, I can just create another one, but it's not the same. It
Yeah.
was a complete unique human being with a unique DNA. It's
Yes.
gone now. It's gone.
Yes.
And I feel that we will go into abortion more later, but just quickly, I feel that society teaches us not really the truth about abortion and what it is. It just teaches us that it's normal and it's okay, and you should put yourself first. You do an abortion, and because if you don't have enough money, or you don't have enough, you don't have the boyfriend that you want, or you are not in the career that you want, you just do an abortion and you focus on yourself, and you should also feel proud about that. It's gone to a
And
point where it's
yes,
absolutely crazy.
and if we think that why is it so that there is no tolerance to this discussion and debate about this issue, I think that there is some kind of sense of guilt that they have to.
Yes.
That's why they are not able to discuss about this issue. They do not want to hear the voice because it gives them the sense of guilt.
Yes.
And
A reminder.
yes, yes, because it is especially in this abortion issue, but also I think that also in these questions about sexuality and marriage, it is
Yeah.
it is the same, and that's why they want to silence, they want to censor.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good, because if abortion would be morally completely okay, and there would not really seriously be any problem with it, then you could ask, why do they always bring up, when some, especially if a man talks about abortion, they say like, oh well, if your 12-year-old daughter would get, raped or assaulted and pregnant by that, then what would you do? But the real question is, why do you feel the need to ask me that question? We are criticizing mostly 99% of the abortions, and you are asking me the 1% question. And I
Yeah,
looked this up, it's 1% is the chance, 1% of abortions are due to rape. But if it's younger than 12 years old, it's like 0.1% or
yeah,
0.2%.
yeah,
It's like the numbers are not there, but the reason they are bringing it up is because they feel the need for it to be extreme. If it's not extreme situation, then they don't have so much to stand on. But if we go back to pride being used as a political tool, and I have been trying to look into this a little bit. But do you know how much money is being spent on Pride or this agenda by the
yes,
state?
yes. The state gives, for example, this year it is about 800,000 euros, but it comes from the state budget. But in previous years it has been more. Now there is some kind of cut to these fundings, but then they get money also from other public sources. The municipalities give money, and also many governmental units, for example, Alko and Kela and so on. There are many instances who fund these
Yeah,
great events, and of
yeah,
course there is also private money
mm,
in this.
of course, yeah,
Yes. But also the church, Evangelical Lutheran Church, gave money to that.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So I
That's
don't know.
interesting.
I don't know the total money, but yes, but from public sources, that is originally taxpayers' money.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is,
yeah.
it is a big deal.
Exactly. And at least in my opinion and my experience, like we accepted long time ago that people can live their lives the way they want to, and nobody should bully someone because they have a different lifestyle than you. As long as you are not, of course, hurting or misleading anybody, then it's fine. But we still need to be able to address facts. For example, that a church joining a pride parade goes against the values of Christianity. I don't see any problem in stating that fact. It's just a fact. And stating facts doesn't mean you hate anyone or you want to put anyone down. It's just a fact. And nobody should get fined for stating facts. Of
Yeah,
course, you can do that without being intentionally hurtful, as you did. You did it peacefully and respectfully, as I saw. But it's a lot of things happening there. And it's a lot of things that are hard to talk about. And we talked a little bit about abortion. It's it's a hard it's a really hard thing to talk about, because I went out with my opinions just a couple months ago, maybe 6 months ago now, and I received a lot of backlash. But it's, I would call it like unjustified hate, you see, because yeah, and of course that's abortion. Abortion is so controversial to speak about. People literally lose their mind, especially if a man is talking about it. And there seems to be a big misunderstanding in what a fetus really is. Some people say it's a parasite, some people say it's not human, some people say it's just a worthless clump of cells. But what do you, Päivi Räsänen, say? You're a doctor and you're a woman. Can you tell me, when does human life begin?
Yes, in fact, the human life begins um, from the conception.
Conception. Yeah.
Yes, conception. When these the egg and sperm come together and their genes connect to each other, and then from the very beginning there is a unique individual who has her or his own genes, and then after that there is not, we can't find any line when we could say that now this fetus came to be as a human being. Uh, the development happens gradually.
What do you mean, like when it becomes a human being?
I mean that when we have certain certain lines for abortion, for example, 12 weeks or
Exactly, yeah.
24
But
weeks,
it is a
are
human
law.
being
So
from
we can't
conception.
see that anything happens just then in the life of the baby in uterus.
You mean
So
that would make it less valuable?
yes, so
Yes,
I
yeah.
mean that the baby is from the very beginning a human being. And if you try to claim that it is, for example, 24 weeks or it is 12 weeks or the time of the birth when the baby becomes a human being, there are not any biological grounds for that kind of statement. So the only biological fact is that the human individual human being starts his or her life from the conception.
And it's interesting when you speak about this. Usually people don't believe like it's a human being. Like they seriously don't believe. That's how messed up we have. That's how bad of a job we have done in our society.
Yeah.
To kind of
Yes.
talk about this.
But many people, when they, for example, when they see from ultrasound picture how the baby is there moving, and the baby has uh, feet and hands
Yeah, sucking the thumb or
yes,
yeah,
and the little heart is there working,
yeah,
so they understand that this is really a human being. It is
yeah,
a baby who is
yeah,
growing there, and it is very peculiar that the same people who state and who speak about their baby uh, that they have seen in ultrasound, the same people can try to claim that in these abortion cases they are not babies.
exactly.
But when
Yeah,
you expect and hope for the child, then it is a baby.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
Yeah. So and speaking of that, the people doing, I mean, the pregnant woman going through an abortion, for example, she knows only so much, and of course she can be misled by the society, but a doctor, and a doctor, in my opinion, should save lives at all costs. A doctor has a huge responsibility to do what's right and not only what's convenient or trending at the moment. And a doctor should, remain firm and steady in the pursuit of helping human beings. but a doctor doing abortions is the complete opposite, in my opinion. So what do you think? Is it contradictory for doctors to perform abortions?
Yes, I think so. And this was the reason when I studied medicine, uh, and I had to think about this issue a lot at that time. Uh, I I came to that decision that I will not end life through abortion, and I have not done it. When I worked as a medical doctor for 10 years before my political career. And
Did you receive a lot of like questions about that decision?
uh, yes, of course, I had to talk about it. For example, when I was studying medicine, and we had to train some operations, and in fact also doing abortion was one that that the students had to do. But I said to my teacher that for my conscience, I will not do it, and I.
Can I ask, if I may interrupt you, how do you do an abortion? Like,
Uh, yes,
because there's
yes,
stages to
yes,
it.
in that time when I studied medicine, it was many, it was long ago, but then at that time it was done so that you had some kind of instruments, and you had to cut into pieces the baby in the womb, and then suck these
You cut
pieces.
into pieces. So
Yes,
you go in.
go into the womb, and then you cut with knife to pieces that baby, and then you had to suck the pieces away. It was the way to do it at that time, and also nowadays it may be done in some cases, even though that nowadays we have also these medicines that can kill the baby to the womb.
Yeah,
But then, for
and then the
example,
woman get give birth to a dead baby, right?
yes, to dead
Basically.
baby, yes.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I want to tell that when I was working as a young doctor in one hospital, I had there a colleague, uh, another medical doctor, young lady. She was also, and she was pro-abortion, and I was pro-life, and we quite often we debated, we discussed about these issues, and then one day I found her, uh, that she was pale, and she was in. I thought that she is sick, but she said that she just had uh, done an abortion, and she when she tried to suck the pieces from the womb, the little leg, small leg, cut from above,
Yeah,
dropped to the floor, and she said that she almost vomited there.
yeah, yeah,
It was so bad feeling, and she said that I feel that I am a killer.
yeah,
She said,
yeah,
and so it was so doctors know what happened.
yeah,
Doctors know that it is a
yeah.
human being. They have legs, and
Hearts and
they have
hands, and
hands and
yeah,
everything.
and doctors shouldn't do abortions. I
Yes,
at least, yeah,
I agree
yeah,
absolutely. They shouldn't do, because they know what they are doing, and of course, I think that nowadays people know what happens there, because they have these ultrasound
mm, yeah,
screenings,
yeah,
and you can see that it is the baby who is there, and
exactly.
just at the same age you are ending lives of similar babies in other rooms when
Yeah,
you are screening and congratulating
Exactly.
parents
For
for,
yeah,
for that now there is the
for a
baby.
wished baby. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
beautiful baby there.
Yeah.
So it
It-
is so
yeah.
crazy.
It's absolutely crazy. And then I've had a discussion with one woman on Facebook, and she's really defending the right to have an abortion. And she called me a misogynist because
Uh-huh. Mission. Ah,
misogynist.
okay.
Yeah, like I would put
Yeah.
down women because
Yes.
I want to take away women rights because I'm
Yeah.
against abortion. But I asked her, what about the women rights in the womb?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, well, it's not because the woman, the baby in the womb doesn't have any consciousness, so that's why she thinks it's okay to terminate it. And she said, as long as a person has gained consciousness, gain or lost afterward doesn't matter. As long as you have gained it, then you are worthy of protection. What do you think about that? What would you respond to a person being so defensive, and that is basically their only claim to why abortion should be okay?
I think that this is not a good argument because the consciousness, if you think, for example, a baby who has just born, a preborn baby, they don't, how can we say that they are conscious? Do they have consciousness? Should we be able to kill them, if, for example, if they are
Yeah,
disabled? Or then if you think about, for example, disabled, severely disabled people, their value, human value, is not dependent on their consciousness. And so I think that it is a very dangerous argument if you think that the value of human being is dependent on how conscious you are.
yeah,
And when you sleep, you are not.
exactly. Yeah,
You
I
could kill
yeah,
somebody, or when he is, for example, operated and in narcos, sedated,
exactly. Yeah,
strongly sedated.
yeah,
They do not have consciousness at all.
yeah. And you cannot kind of play with that line.
Yeah.
Human value should always a
Yes,
human should always have human value. No,
yes, yes,
no matter attributes or place or age or
yes, or size,
yeah,
or or your capacities. It is not dependent on your how capable you are. You have the same
exactly.
human value. And it
Yeah,
is in, for example, if we think about our criminal law, it has been the rule in in our criminal law. So it is if you kill a human being who is a preborn baby, just born baby, or who is an dementic person, or severely disabled person. It is as the the consequences are the same
mm,
in law
yeah,
to kill
exactly.
an
Yeah,
person.
non-conscious.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly. But so when you talk about abortions or when you are pro-life, you get to hear quite a lot of interesting questions and ideas, and like this woman, for example. And so for next, I would like to ask you some of the most common arguments that I've heard about abortions. So are you ready?
yes, I try.
Yeah. So do you think banning abortion leads to more illegal abortions?
Yes, it might be possible that it leads to some illegal abortions, but if I think that abortion is killing a baby, then it is not a good argument that if there is a threat that something comes. If, I do not accept killing a baby on that grounds that if
that there might happen illegal
yes,
abortions. Yeah,
yes,
and
yes,
some people say that there will happen more abortions if you ban abortion, and that's completely false. Like
yes, it is not true.
of course people can go and do an illegal abortion to
Yeah,
other countries, and but like in Poland, for example, I think, like, they have banned abortion and they are doing quite great. They have their abortion rate is, I think it's below 1% or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
Of course I have to double check the source, but still it's and of course I think in that country, of course, people might be doing illegal abortions that nobody knows about, but that doesn't mean, if we compare 1% abortions to right now in Åland Islands, for example, it's a 25% abortion rate of all pregnant women. One fourth, 25%, does an abortion, and in Finland it's 16.5% or something around that. So getting it down to 1%, it's quite a lot of lives that are saved. Of
So
course, it's poor for those who go and do an illegal abortion, but you save quite a lot of lives with banning abortion.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
I agree. But why is it so high number in Åland?
I have tried to think about that too, and but what I know is, when I have discussed abortion here, people have went crazy. They are absolutely crazy and going bananas to try and pick on me, or trying to, like, rate my restaurants, for example, and all these things, just because I speak up for the unborn child. And yeah, but it would be quite interesting to think, to check on that more. And then I heard also last year that they stopped saying the gender so early, because they realized that many people did an abortion due to the gender.
Really,
Yeah, really, and that's absolutely crazy.
it is. It is.
And another question is abortion healthcare? You hear it quite many times. Abortion is healthcare, and you should get the help you need. So is abortion healthcare?
Yes, if we think that abortions they are they are done by medical doctors and nurses and also in our hospitals, and in that sense we have to say that it is it is part of healthcare. But in principle, I think that it is not.
Yeah, like in the juridical sense, it can
Yes,
be called healthcare, but
yes,
what it really is, it's not healthcare, because healthcare should, you know, do
yes,
something good,
yeah,
not.
yes. Because I think that when a pregnant lady comes to doctor, there are two patients, and
Exactly.
you can do healthcare to that mother, but you should do also it to that baby.
Mm.
So yes, to kill the baby is not promoting the healthcare of the mother. And I think that also in many cases I have met so many women who have said afterwards that they regret that, and they had hoped that somebody and the doctor had given some other options, or they had got some support and some good advice and encouragement to keep the baby. So quite often when in the beginning of the pregnancy, you may have nausea and you may be have some kind of depressed feelings and so on, and that's why it is not a good situation. It is not good time to make these kind of decisions. You should have from your environment, from your family, and from doctor and nurses, more
Support.
support and encouragement to keep
Yeah,
the baby.
that's a good answer. What is your response to my body, my choice?
Yes, I think that it is everyone absolutely should have uh, the right to their body, for example, before sex, so that you make your decisions, and you know also that if you have sex, then you might have also baby as
Exactly.
a consequence. But if you think about this phrase in the connection with abortion, there are two bodies, and the baby should have also the choice to life. So I think that this is some kind of, it is false, it is leading false
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah.
So
Would you agree? I've been thinking about this quite a lot, that when you put yourself first to the point that you feel the right to eliminate not only, another human being, but it's also your baby. Do you feel that there is some sense of narcissism mixed with that for some people? Not maybe for everybody, because I think many people are just so normalized to abortion, but some people I've had discussions with, and long discussions with, and they are quite hard on the fact, they know a lot about abortions, and still they want to continue being pro-abortion. Is that some kind of narcissistic kind of way, that you put yourself first to the fact that you don't really care about not even your own, baby?
yes, this is possible. Of course, there are also these kind of cases when the woman might have a difficult situation. For example, there is divorce, and sometimes the boyfriend or even the husband may be pressuring the woman. So I think that there are a lot of different situations in the background of abortion. But also, I think that we are living now in that kind of culture, narcissistic culture, that promotes this thinking that you should think yourself, and think what is good to you. Because when you get baby, you have to put these the baby's needs before your own needs in many times. So, and perhaps
Exactly.
that's why we have the problem that we have not enough babies nowadays.
Yeah.
So we are living in that kind of individualistic and hedonistic culture, where it is difficult to put uh, to love the other human being, even if it is your own baby,
Exactly.
as you love yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was the great commandment of Jesus, that you should love your neighbor as you love yourself, and
Yeah.
it is so true in family, and in when you are when you have children. So you have to take care of their needs,
Yeah.
and sometimes put them in front of your own needs.
Yeah. And someone said it quite well. They said, some men like to say that they are pro life, but you also need to be pro life when the baby is born. You also
Yes.
need to be there, and be there for the woman, and be there, and contribute as much as you can as a man, and contribute to your family, and do everything for the woman, and your baby and your family as you can. You can not only be pro life, and in the political sense, but then when there is the work that you need to do, then you are not there anymore.
Yes.
It's a
Yes,
responsibility.
very good. Very, very well said.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the last question of these typical questions you get when you are pro-life. So the last one is, in cases of pregnancy after assault,
Mm.
what do you think about this?
Uh, at first they are very rare. They are very rare cases. And in fact, I know, for example, I have one friend who was raped, and she got a baby, and she decided to keep him, and she was happy that she did it. I also know some lady who did the decision to give the baby as an as adoption.
Adoption.
So even in these very grave and rare cases, I I I think that we should not punish the baby. Yeah, he or she is innocent to that assault. And of course, we have to punish the man who has raped and who did it.
Exactly.
But
And
yes,
it's a really sad question, like to even that we have to talk about this.
yes,
It's sad in that way. The situation is poor, and it's a sad situation, and you can really feel for the woman who has gone through it.
yeah.
And we should really do something about that as a country, but
But as you said, 99% of cases, abortions, they are not these kind of cases.
yeah.
But and and
And that's the question: why do they feel the need to ask
yes,
this extreme 1% situation when we are really giving critique to 99%
yes,
of
yes,
the
yes,
of the abortions that are really happening due to convenience most of the
yes,
times?
yes, yes, yes,
That's the real question, like because as you said before, there has to be some kind of internal knowing that there is something not right about this.
yes,
And I need an extreme case to prove and convince myself and the other person that it cannot be right to abolish abortion.
yeah, yeah.
But so if we speak about faith a little bit, what would you say to people struggling with their faith? For example, somebody messed up really bad and they know it. Is there a way back?
Yes, there is always a way back, and the core message of the Bible and the core message of Christianity is that there is the forgiveness always. It is always.
So can anybody be forgiven? Can anybody be forgiven?
Yes, anybody can be forgiven because Jesus has died on the cross for our sins, and so he has punished. He was punished for our crimes and for our sins and what we have done against God and against other people, and and that's why even if we think about killing your own baby, or, which gives an enormous guilt to many women. Uh, you can know that Jesus has died also for that, and he has he has taken the punishment that belongs to us, and that's why we can be free when we trust on him and when we believe in him, so we can be free of our guilt and our sins, and so I want to encourage to trust on Jesus to believe in him, and I think that quite often it is so that it is so, for example, if we think about abortion or or these sexual sins that we have been talking about, it is so difficult to admit that you have done something wrong if you do not have any solution to that problem. If you have just the guilt, the feeling of guilt, but when you have the message of mercy, message of grace, then you are free to admit that yes, I am a sinner, but I have the forgiveness of all my sins in front of God and also in front of other people. And yes, and
That
perhaps that is the reason why it is quite often it is just the Christians who who are defending the lives
of the
of,
unborn.
of unborn children, uh, even though that everyone should know that what happens in abortion, that it is killing the baby. But it is so difficult to admit it if you do not have any answer to this your situation,
Yeah,
to the guilt that we have in our society.
yeah, that's a great response. Thank you for that, Päivi. And what would you say to those who are unsure about Christianity, who have maybe been a little bit curious but have not really looked into it more?
Yes, I want to encourage to read the Bible. For me, when I was young, um, it was very important for me when I started to read the Bible. For example, the book of John, from the New Testament, and the book of Acts that I read when I was young. I found from there the answers to my life, and I understood when I read these books from the Bible that God is real, and what it talks about my life, it is so real, and and um, and uh, and I want to encourage also that, because the main message of the Bible is that Jesus is Son of God. He came to the earth. He and we can read about him from the Gospels and from the Bible, and he died for our sins, but he rose from the dead, and he lives now. And so I I would encourage to pray for Jesus and ask him to your life, and I'm sure that he answers that kind of prayers. So because he is alive, he has resurrected from death. And
So
so
basically, would you say, to keep this really simple for somebody listening, would you mean then like you would maybe just go into a dark room or any room at all that's quiet and just sit there and pray for Jesus, and should they like ask for something specific?
I mean that just where you are now, you can pray for Jesus and pray that he would come to your life, and he would forgive your sins, and lead you. And I'm sure that he answers that kind of prayer. And I also uh, encourage to read the Bible, and pray in front of the Bible, and read what he has said, what he has promised, because I have found in my life that his promises are so true. He really very concretely and very yes, in very concrete way, he answers to the prayers, and 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 fulfills what he has promised.
Thank you, Päivi. So last question. This has been great, by the way. Thank you so much for coming to the show and talking with me. It's been really great. But
Thank you.
and all of this started for me basically because of the freedom of speech. In After Charlie Kirk died, I put up a poster on Charlie Kirk, and this got all over the newspaper, and everybody was like right wing extremist, like I'm supporting right wing extremist and all these things, and I received a lot of backlash after that. But I remember the evening he died, I couldn't sleep, and then I looked at my phone and I saw this horrible shooting of Charlie Kirk, and I was just wondering, like, hope he is still alive, because it wasn't confirmed at that time, because it was just confirmed that they were taking him to the hospital. And I just opened my terrace door, and it was stormy, and thundery weather, and it was like I felt a calling. I've been a restaurant owner my last 10 years about, and been a chef my whole life, basically my whole adult life. And that's meaningful. It's very meaningful. You feed people and you serve people.
Yeah.
That's very meaningful, and I do find meaning in that. But I just felt the higher calling somehow too, because during my whole time as a chef, and as a just a person working in service, everybody knows you cannot speak your mind. The customer is always right. And
Mm.
what I thought when I opened a restaurant, I thought, well, now I'm my own boss, so now I can kind of be more honest and be more myself. But I was so wrong about that. Now every customer is my boss. So I can't
Yeah.
I can't speak my mind. And it has been like that for the last 8-10 years since I've been a well, 9 years actually I've been a business owner. But I felt this urge to just kind of be myself, and just go with it. And after that, I took up some books and some podcasts and audiobooks, and started to read a little bit about embryology and all these things, to kind of have some facts as well to back up my claims. And then I started to post. And it was only once I started to post about abortions, or all these controversial things to speak about. It was then I realized, like, we don't have freedom of speech. I lost just after the Charlie Kirk post I made. 3 weeks after that, I lost three big, partnerships that I've had for years. One of them I had for like 9 years, and I lost it. Like, just like in 2-3 weeks, it was gone. And of course, I asked them, but they didn't give any direct answer. But all I knew was that the service hadn't changed, the food hasn't changed. It was just that I now spoke my beliefs. And so we definitely have a kind of big hole in freedom of speech right now. And people are not people are very, very afraid to speak their mind and to speak what they believe in, whether it's abortion or immigration or pride or whatever. I think we all should come together and talk, and then we could bring out facts, and we could see, okay, who is right, who is wrong. Okay, well, you are right this time. So then we do
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
But what do you think about freedom of speech today, and can it still be saved?
Yes, I have a lot of concerns of the situation of our freedom of speech, and uh, I have felt during these 7 years that it has been my calling to try to defend freedom of speech and freedom of faith also. And yes, of course, I was so disappointed with the ruling of the Supreme Court, because I had victories in lower courts, but now then my booklet is censored. And yes, I think that we have a problem. It is even that if you have to go to police investigations and you have to go to courts to defend your freedoms, that is in itself it is a problem in these freedoms. And when you tell your story, I can see that for you as a business owner, it is really difficult. For me, as a member of parliament, it is a little bit easier because I have not lost my my job, and in fact I got even a little bit more votes in last
Mm,
elections
yeah,
than than 7 years before. But yes, but we have in Finland and in also in European countries, other European countries, we really have problems in these freedoms, even though that they are in our constitution and they are in these international agreements that we have. But we have to fight now for these freedoms, and that's why, for example, I consider to appealing to the European Court of Human Rights to continue the fight, to
yeah,
continue to defend these
yeah.
freedoms. even though it would be easier for me to,
Yeah, yeah.
to
I
let it.
understand what you mean.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
somebody said that in today's age we don't go out and fight with an axe and a shield.
yeah.
We go out with the phone and we record and we post things and we
Yes,
speak our mind.
yes,
That's basically how we fight, and we speak our truth and speak what we believe in,
yeah,
and we have to be able to do that. Otherwise, it's not a good world where you can't speak
yes,
what you believe in, or even discuss it, or even debate about it.
yes,
They just
absolutely.
want to shut you down.
And I think also, I think my children and I think my grandchildren, the oldest grandchildren are now 13. I have 12 grandchildren. And what kind of society is when they are grown up, and
Exactly.
how can they use
Yeah.
these fundamental freedoms,
Yeah.
and that's why I think that it is now time to defend
Exactly. It's
freedoms.
time to defend and wake up and put something bigger, a bigger cause, than ourselves.
Yeah,
I really feel that, like, I am doing this for my
yeah,
daughter and her generation to come, and if I want their life to be better, and not to be worse by there not being freedom of speech, for example, and
yes,
such. But it's well, there's a lot to talk about there, and I think we could go on for like
yeah,
1 hour more easily, but we have to stick to the times, and I know you're a busy woman, Päivi. So but I'm really looking forward to, if we could do this again in the
yeah,
summer, maybe in Helsinki or in Mariehamn. We
yeah,
could
it would-
really talk a lot about freedom of
yeah,
speech, and how we could save it. But thank you so much for coming, Päivi.
yes, thank you so much, thank you.